Welcome back to Speed Sport Magazine. Now we'd like to take a look at some of the challenges that both Kevin Moore Jr. and Tony Stewart might have been dealing with on that night, August 9th, at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. Let's begin by taking a look at a cockpit similar to the one that Tony Stewart might have been sitting in on that night. Jason, tell me a little bit about the challenges a driver would have inside a winged sprint car.
Well, as you can see by looking through the cockpit, there's lots of things prohibiting your view in a winged sprint car. It's probably one of the most difficult cars to see out of. You've got a rock screen here that's here to protect the driver that your eyes have got to focus through. You've got the top wing that's got the side panels on it. This car here's got a cutoff side panel that some drivers do to gain a little bit of view out the right side, but typically that's a full panel there and you cannot see out the right side of the car at all. And then out the front of the car, what most people don't realize is you cannot see the front tires in a sprint car, not even close to see them. All you can see is a nose wing here. So I've got about a 1 foot tall by about a 3 foot wide portal that you're looking out of. I can glance a little bit to the left, but nothing to the right. So you're really relying on your feel as a driver and your approach on other race cars and things like that. But it's very difficult to see out the sides of these cars at all. Not to mention when you put the helmet on, you've got the eye portal. We typically wear a Hans device, and then you've got the seats now with the full containment. So all of these things take away from vision a little bit, but it's advances we've made in safety over the years that were really made to protect the driver, but we did have to give up a little bit of vision for that.
And you add in, it seems like a simple thing, but the thickness of the visor as well as tear-offs, all of that changes perspective as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, that, and in this situation, both Tony and Kevin had that going on for them. You have an 1/8 inch thick Lexan visor, and you've got tear-offs on it as well. So all of those things are really diminishing your vision, not to mention the darkness of the racetrack, dust that's in the air, and just all the other things that are going on. It's very, very difficult to see out of these cars.
Let's talk a little bit real quickly about the fact that you've raced at Canandaigua Motorsports Park. Being inside this car, Kevin's walking across the track in a black uniform with the lighting there and everything. How tough would that might have been to see?
I'd have to say that would have been extremely tough. It is a racetrack that is a little bit dim in its lighting. You know, it's been around for a long time, and we certainly don't have NASCAR lightings at short tracks. We just don't have. There's only a few tracks in the country with that kind of lighting. So Canandaigua is one of those. And not only do you have the darkness of the track, you've got Kevin in a black suit, and then you've also got, I believe in the video there, we see a car that's in front of Tony. And I do know when you're behind another sprint car, you cannot see through it at all. There's no vision around it, over it, under it, through it. You cannot see around it. So your vision is completely impaired until that car moves out of the way.
All right, Jason, thanks. Now let's talk about that big right rear tire. Okay, Brad, let's take a look at this right rear. How much bigger is it than the rest of the tires on the car, and what's its purpose for being so massive?
Well, it's about 105 inches in circumference, and it's a lot bigger than the left rear, and that helps the car roll through the corners. Now, this is the most critical part of the race car. This is what sticks it getting into the corner and through the corner, and the driver will drive these sprint cars with the throttle as much as the steering wheel, try to keep this tire broke loose, and it's very critical.
How far out from the chassis does the right rear stick out?
Really, really far. It's over 2 feet to the outside edge of this tire right here. And again, it's kind of a sixth sense for the driver to know where this is at in racing conditions.
Let's talk about Kevin Ward a little bit here too. As he was walking up to the car, it's a dark night, he's got his helmet on and everything, and he's full of adrenaline from the racing. It might have been easy for him to know where that right front was. How much tougher might it have been for him to have a feel for where the right rear was?
Well, for him and or Tony Stewart, the driver in this car, when you're racing, you can get the front tires through a lot of times and not clear the back tire. This tire sticks out at least a half a foot more than the right front does.
Okay, Brett, thanks. Let's talk to Erin now. Erin, let's take a look at a few things from Kevin Moore's perspective, beginning with the driver's shoe and the surface of the shoe.
Yeah, driving shoes are made to be sleek and comfortable in the race car, but they're flat on the bottom to maximize your feel on the pedals. So they're not ideal for walking or running.
Especially on a racetrack at night?
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about earlier, it was not the most well-lit track, and even though a track can be dry and slick, it can also still be bumpy and groovy.
And let's take a look at the helmet now too. I'll trade you here. What are some of the challenges a driver would have walking fully outfitted in the appropriate gear?
It's definitely not easy to walk with a helmet on. If you think about it, your depth perception is thrown off. You have the front edge of the helmet about 2 inches off of your nose, so you can't see straight down. You have no idea where your feet are. In addition to that, with the weight on your head, it actually seems to throw off your balance a little bit.
So it might have been a challenge for Kevin to know exactly where he was in position in relationship to the wheels and the tires in the moving car.
That's definitely a possibility.
Okay. Thank you to all of our guests for sharing their perspective and insight here tonight. It's certainly a very difficult time for everyone involved. And our thoughts go out to the Ward family, the Stewart family, and the racing community at large. A little later in the show, we'll talk about the future of sprint car racing in America with World of Outlaws CEO Brian Carter. And up next, we'll check in on the Speed Sport Knoxville World Challenge. We'll be right back. Thursday nights, MAVTV is the place to be for the best in American real racing. Speed Sport Magazine presents insightful features to keep you, the fan, in the know.
And I scare the hell out of myself.
Tell me the truth. You're better than Rico? And Speed Sport brings you great racing action. Tune in at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific for Speed Sport and Speed Sport Magazine.